So I want to do this quick video on something that seems to come up more often than not in my consultations with people that I have with them. And it's this thing that we have such a fear of other people's opinions and judgments of us, and like kind of where does that come from? Where does that stem from? And I'm going to try and keep this one short and sweet. We'll see how that goes. I've got to practice trying to get a bit more succinct with my message, so that's what I want to do anyway. But really, if we kind of look at our whole entire lives from when we're a kid, we can understand why something has been born into us that makes us feel like we need the approval or acceptance of other people, and why their judgments and opinions of us are important. Because from simple little things that we might go through at school, are you putting your hand up, can you go to the toilet, is a form of we need permission from someone else. We need their acceptance to say, yes, that's okay, you're allowed to go to the toilet. That might seem like a silly example. However, it's still something that happens to us that leaves its mark in us, feeling like we need other people to tell us that something's okay. So I'm hoping you can see that, even though that one I feel is a necessary thing. You know, put your hand up and go to the toilet. Of course, it's a necessary thing in my opinion. But also, there's the education system itself. To get the exams, there's so much pressure placed on us as humans to get a good exam result. If we get a good exam result, we're brilliant. If we don't get such a good exam result, we can often be told lies about, like our parents might make excuses for us, saying, oh, they failed because their cousin was sick in hospital for the last 9 months, so they couldn't study properly. But what that does to the person, to that child, is kind of tells them, you failed and I'm embarrassed about that, so I'm now going to lie on your behalf to the rest of the world. Do you see how that works? So that can leave its little marking that goes in us as well. There's other situations with that if we don't reach the grade, just generally because everyone around us might be doing okay, or we think they're doing okay. That when we go to get our exams and we don't get any exams, or we fail them all, because of the pressure that's placed on it now, because we failed those exams, it can leave us feeling inadequate to the rest of the world. So just that there, if you actually stop and think about that deeply, guys, I could actually end the video and go, that's why we all have a fear of other people's judgments and opinions, because the consequences of not achieving what we're told we need to achieve seem so severe. In other words, you need to get an A grade, you don't get an A grade, you get an F, oh my God, you're a thick human being. And just quickly, this is why these things are always so strong with me, and this is why I always feel like I'm a good preacher of this type of thing especially, is because my entire life was spent being told I was thick. And I've said before in other videos, this is something I'm now over. I now realise I'm not thick, but it certainly held me back throughout my entire life, only up until probably the last 5, maybe 8 years ago. That I started to really see that in me. But my entire childhood was spent being told I'm thick from literally everybody, in a roundabout way. My family members wouldn't actually sit and say I'm thick, etc., but I could hear excuses being made for me. And that's coming with love, that's coming from love. That's where I say sometimes this stuff goes on in us and it's not done in this detrimental, horrible, narcissistic way. Sometimes it's just done purely through love. But certainly in school, I experienced quite bad stuff in school because I couldn't keep up, I couldn't read properly, and I didn't understand the lessons that were going on. That's a whole nother video, by the way, because I was always a very curious person, and I don't want to touch onto that in this, because I did say I'm going to keep it succinct and to the point, so I'm really going to try and do that. But that's a whole nother story. The curiosity in me was actually the true child just wanting to understand what was going on, but that gets crushed out of us as being disruptive. So again, it leaves us in this place of we need to live up to someone else's approval. We need to kind of fit in with the masses, with the extreme. Now, what happens when we get into dark night of the soul and we start seeing our conscious mind at work? We kind of wake up, if you like, and we can see that. We see the world for what the world is, and we can often look back and see a lot of our own failings, or what's governed us in life, or what's restricted us. When we start to see that, that can cause us a great deal of trouble, because that now means that there's a natural part of us in dark night of the soul that sees the ridiculousness of some of those restraints that we're placed in, but it also conjures up in us this new feeling of our true selves. Our true essence knows that if it wants to kind of move forward in life, if it wants to do the things it wants to do, it's going to have to step into those areas that it has always feared. Does that make sense? So I might have always had a fear of speaking like this, if you like. It might have always been in me, very grounded in me. But when I kind of had my spiritual awakening and the very strong feelings that I wanted to leave videos on my experiences because I believe it can help other people, the fear of speaking out was very, very immense. It was huge in me. It took, I think I've said before, it took me well over a year to leave my first video. Probably a lot longer than that, actually, guys. I'll sit down and do my story one day. Might be interesting. It'd be very long as well, I should think. But it was a huge fear that I had. Although, when you come into that consciousness, you realise that everything's okay. You realise that no one's thinking of you, no one cares about you. People are too busy in their own life worrying about their judgments of what people are placing on them. You know, no one was caring what Toby does or what he says. So leave the video. But every time I tried to do it, there it is. There's the fear that had always been there that's so strong. That's why Dark Night of the Soul, that separation, is so hard. Because we see it, but that doesn't mean it falters away from us. We see the silliness of what's been told to us, but now we have to separate from that. That's where we start doing our inner work. That's where I say I absorbed myself in my loneliness and I really threw myself into Dark Night of the Soul. I reached that deep, sad place where I thought I might end everything. I don't like going into too much details about it, if I'm honest. Because I know there's guys watching this who are hurting and are possibly in that realm, and I like to try and keep the theme kind of positive to give you something to look forward to. But I guess saying that, actually, if some of you do know that I was that low at one point and in that much emotional pain, and I threw myself deep into Dark Night of the Soul, I decided I wanted to learn all about it. I'm going to make my purpose in life finding out what the purpose of Dark Night of the Soul is, and then I'm going to share that story. That really got me focused in to become my better version, become my greater version. And I did that, and it really kind of poured me through. And now I kind of got to a point where I'm aware that I'm scared to leave the videos. Not so much anymore, guys, but I still care about what you guys think. Of course I do. But I got to a point where I thought, I now know it's silly of me to be caring what other people do, but I know that I'm a good enough human being to be, just being a being is good enough to actually warrant leaving videos. We do all innately have that feeling inside of us that's been bred into us, that we need to be fearful of other people's judgments of us. Because should we be rejected from other people, it would ultimately, over our evolution, it would ultimately mean that we don't survive. We seek connection as humans, and when we feel like we're losing those connections, it's a very scary place for us to be. And that's why it's important to understand some of those little things that I was mentioning about the schooling system, or how your parents might make excuses for you in certain situations, because then you can start realising what it is about you now. Like, you're not a flawed human being now because you're so scared of other people's opinions. No, it's perfectly normal. If you think about your condition, if you think about the upbringing, if you think about society, it's perfectly normal to have a fear of those people's opinions. And then you also get people that say, oh, I don't give a shit what other people think. Well, you do. You do, and that kind of sticking your fingers up at other people's opinions won't last long, and it only will work in the realms of your safety, if you like. I wonder how many people who turn around and go, I don't give a shit what people think, would get up on the stage and start singing if that's what they wanted to do, or would leave YouTube videos if it's something that petrified them. Or in my case as well, another one here, guys, being a bit self-indulgent in these videos, becoming a bit of a habit, this. I'm getting a bit concerned now. See, worried about your opinions, there you go. But in my case, scared to go up to the top of mountains. You know, I'm very scared of heights. I'm the world's worst hiker. I've said this before. I love wild camping, I love hiking, but I'm the world's worst because I'm scared of heights and also open spaces. They make me very, very, very uncomfortable. But I go there and I work on that all the time. It brings up a side of me that I need to explore more. It brings up a side of me that I need to indulge in more. And often I can see that my fear of those heights or my fear of those open spaces is often, how am I going to act when I'm there? I'm not actually scared of the height, if you like, but how am I going to act when I'm there if there's other people there and they see me? You see, so I'm trying to do in this video is explain how we can see that it's normal to have that fear. It's perfectly normal, and I think when we understand a lot of the time that it's normal to have that fear, that we're not unusual, we're not weak, we're not feeble, we're not useless, we're not being rejected, we're not never going to get what we want, we're not never going to get what we want because we're so scared and timid and meek, and that's how we see ourselves. And it's not. We need to understand our conditioning. We need to understand the degree that's gone on within us. Once we get that, we can then work on moving forward. And that working on going forward, guys, means very simply in a nutshell, I can actually do another video on this one, but very simply in a nutshell, get in nature, sit in silence, drink more H2O, eat better foods, stop smoking. You know, all of these things that we do to this nature, this is nature, remember, all the things that we do to this shows us, we carry around this unconscious feeling of we're not being honest to our body, we're not nurturing this nature in the way that it should be. And because of that, that affects our psychological way that we see things. And that's often what will keep us stuck. So get out in nature. You know, if you do smoke, understand what you're doing there. Understand your addiction and just stop that. I know it's a bit harder than that, but just stop that. It's not healthy. All the junk food eating, if we're scrolling too much, become very perceptive and aware of our own addictions. Because whilst we're treating ourselves with lack of respect, whilst we're not treating ourselves like nature, how can we possibly think anyone else, when someone else says something bad of us, we're already feeling bad of ourselves because of the way we treat ourselves. So it's just going to trigger us even more. But also on that, people who do say things in you and it triggers something in you, that's only their opinion made up from their world, made up from all the stuff that's being told to them of how they see life and what they should do. It actually has no bearing on you whatsoever. Did that make sense, that video? I'm going to release it because I might do another one on this, because that was more trying to point out understanding why we have this fear. And there's a huge fear of why we fear other people's judgments of us is that fear of rejection. That fear of maybe exposing in ourselves what we're frightened to expose in ourselves. Like mine, just so you can see again, the thick child complex. So by doing these videos, I expose myself to being told I'm thick by you guys or by the world, which you don't. You always, thank you so much. You always give me confidence, love, and you know, it's wonderful. But that's an example for you so that you can see that fear of rejection. But once we understand where it's come from, once we see the roots of that through society, we can then break that down into our own personal experiences, from our family to our relationships to our working ways, and then we can see why we might be so fearful of others' opinions. And I always believe, and these are just my opinions, I always believe that when we understand why something's there, we can then really start to work on how to move through that and go forward. But I'm going to save that for another video. I think that might be quite interesting. I can show you how I got over my own fears of other people's judgments and maybe built this YouTube channel. If that's something that you feel you'd be interested in, guys, let me know. Because there's other areas, there's other things going on out here. There's a lot of stuff going on at the moment. So I'm connecting with a lot of other people out here and really trying to get this message out and the channel to grow, you know, free people up of that egoic mind that holds us all in prison, and that egoic mind has been conditioned into us for thousands of years. But anyway, I'm going to leave it there. If any of you would like a one-to-one consultation with me, please hook me up in the emails below. Also, I love every single one of you. Hello to all the new subscribers that have come along. Thank you so much. I do appreciate it. And of course, to all my old subbies who always show me so much love and have always been so loyal and supportive. And I hope you continue to do so with this video, where I'm a little bit scared of the judgment. Anyway, guys, have a great day. It's grey overcast here, but it's warming up now. And I've got some news to tell you all actually about me coming out of the caravan and doing something else. So I'll share that with you in another video. And yeah, guys, have a great day, have a great week, whatever you're doing. Much love and peace.